You're tuned in to Career Currency with Kareem Perez, a podcast for people who are interested in unlocking their potential and increasing their professional value. Here's your host, Kareem Perez.
Okay, y'all, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Career Currency Podcast, powered by the Tech Effect. You know how we do it. We're the podcast for anybody who's interested in unlocking their potential and increasing their professional value. How do we help you do that? We bring you the best marketers, influencers, brand builders from around the world, global. They came to share their game with you, share career advice, and really help you to increase your professional value, attract more opportunities, and just make more money, right? You want all about thriving in the digital economy. I'm Kareem Perez, your host, the marketing mentor, the professor, founder of the Tech Effect, with over a decade of experience in digital marketing and helping businesses thrive online and helping people grow their career online for the last decade. Okay, so let's talk about today's guest. Okay, today's guest, authentic leader and an innovator in the marketing space. With over 15 years of experience in the industry, she's a symbol of dedication, expertise, and leadership. She spent the last decade in senior leadership roles, demonstrating exceptional skills, her visionary approach, and her journey at senior makes significant impacts as a director of marketing at Cineplex and WE. And currently, she's the CEO of This Is It advertising agency. She continues to pioneer new frontiers and set benchmarks in the marketing space with just like pure marketing excellence. And she also has a very cute dog as well.
Best dog.
So join us as we welcome Elnaz Gerami, genuine visionary trailblazer to the Career Currency Podcast.
Thank
El,
you.
Elnaz, you
Thank
made it.
you.
You made
I
it all
made
the way
it. I
from
did
from
it.
UK.
I did it. Took
All
the
right.
jump across the pond, and here I am.
So we're gonna put a couple UK slangs in there, a couple Top Boy
There
references.
might be one or two. You know what? Just off record, I started Top Boy recently.
Yeah.
I'm so hooked. However, it gets so dark and so sad. I had to break up with it. But
Yeah, all good. Okay, so yeah, we'll dip into that a little bit. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about your journey into marketing. And I'm always interested if this is something you always knew you wanted to do. Did you go to school for this, or did you just like stumble into marketing?
The truth of the matter is, I am actually educated in teaching. So I am a teacher by trade.
Really?
And then I woke up one morning and was like, oh, kids, what is this? Yeah.
Wow.
So I
really?
taught
Okay.
for a few years, and it was not for me, to say the least. I think I got into a role in Toronto as an office manager.
Mhm.
And I just stuck to the marketing team like you wouldn't believe, because
Okay.
I loved what
Yeah.
they were doing.
Right.
I really, really enjoyed the amount of fun that office was having, B, how they were actually driving the business forward.
Right.
I
Right.
would see all the other people come in, do what they do, clock in, clock out. You're like, okay, cool. But you're not really moving the dial. You're not really doing much, It is what it is. But I saw that the marketing team was really making a difference. And I really, really enjoyed just spending time with them, getting to understand what they're doing. Simultaneously, was getting my master's. So at that time, I was like, listen, this is so cool. Maybe that's the direction I need to go in once I'm done doing that.
Right.
That organization brought me onto the marketing the marketing team. The rest is history.
That's blessed. So
Yeah.
so talk about maybe like, so what happened after that? So you left, so you worked there for a bit and then
Got too big for my bridges. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? When
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, oh, you have all the ideas in the world when you start out. Everything is like new. Oh my God, let's do this. Let's do it this way. Let's do that. I literally remember having 13 different ideas for one of our campaigns. And they were like, dude, this is too much. I'm like, but I'm so excited. Like, this is so cool for me. As time progressed, it was a realization that that specific organization wasn't marketing forward.
Right.
They were very much operational. And so as time went on, it dwindled. And I was like, that dimming your light, the passion and all of that. I'm like, it's way too early in my career to feel this way.
Right.
So we parted ways amicably and I moved on. And that was it.
So where did you tell us about your marketing career after that? So,
So after that, I dipped into I was there for 5 years.
Okay.
So I was there for
amount of
5
time.
years. It was a long time. And we did work in LA, New York, as well as Toronto. So I got a lot of experience in the US. And that experience in the US was unbelievable. And the reason it was it allowed me to build my network the way I needed to build my network. So I think the opportunity to work in LA, New York, was something that was probably the most beneficial that early in my career.
Okay.
Because when I would show up to jobs, I was speaking their lingo.
Right.
It was almost as though I had the Toronto understanding, the Canadian market was cool, but here's what they're doing in the US. This is the way that they're doing it in the South, the West, the East, the North, but here's all of America. And that really intrigued different owners of businesses as well as marketing heads and directors at the time, because it allows you to expand your network, because this one person has now a reach, b, the understanding of what the campaign can actually do, because there's something different being brought to the table.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then from there we went on and did advertising blank. Like it was just 2 or 3 different small little Torontonian advertising organizations. And honestly, just to dip my feet into it, understand what I'm doing. What is my market value worth, especially in Canada, right? So as a recent graduate, been doing this for 5 years, I'm really new in the space. Here's my intel. This is my network. What is my net worth now? What am I worth to these businesses, to these organizations?
So this is something you're trying to figure out.
Correct.
At that point.
And I didn't want to do that with organizations that were big in the industry because A, I don't want to sell myself short, or B, I don't want to go in guns blazing and miss the mark.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because that's the other end of it.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
So I spent about 2 years in between 2 agencies, just kind of understanding what they do. Did I like it? No. I woke up every morning like, shit, gotta go to work.
Yeah.
I hate that feeling, but I had to do it because those are the moments that really change the trajectory of your career. I did it, and here we are.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So what would you say are, like how did you prove your value, or how did you differentiate yourself? So what were some of the ways that you did that?
With the organizations that were larger and that I really did want to be at, and I did want the senior roles, the way that I was able to differentiate myself was really honing in on what I'm good at, and that's pushing the boundaries.
Okay.
So when I say that, I don't mean to say abrasive, just confident and comfortable. And with those 2 things, being able to say, I hear you. I understand what this specific brief and or campaign or KPI task, whatever's attached to it, is asking for. In order to reach that and expand on it, that's the key word that I always use is cool. We'll do what you want.
Right.
But we're going to do more.
Yeah.
We need to do more.
Like
and
that.
in order
That's
to
dope.
do more, we need to be in a position where we push boundaries. I'm the man to do that. Because everyone else who answers these questions or shows up to the plate is going to just deliver what you want.
Right.
Versus me saying to you, how do we expand?
Okay.
What are we doing to make it more? What's the long-term goal? So I think for me that was the differentiator. And again, I will not lie to you. It's the amount of experience. Some of it I never even put on my CV or resume, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Not because I was ashamed of it, mostly because recruiters really overlook that and like, why were you jumping job to job to job to
they get
job,
distracted with all that,
Correct.
yeah.
So it was a lot easier in some instances to say I took a gap year, or that was, or I needed some time for 6 months here and there. But that value that was invaluable. Similarly, when I moved to the UK, oh gosh, I hope no one from my old jobs are listening to this, but I was working full-time director role.
Okay.
And I took on part-time work in the UK for free. I volunteered at different marketing agencies to understand their lingo, how they do work,
Very important.
what is different from their market to our market, and not the audience per se, but the actual employee market. So how do they speak? How do they work amongst each other?
Okay.
What does it mean for them to show up and show out versus what it means for us to show up and show out? A campaign is a campaign is a campaign. Across
Very
the
true.
board,
Very
everywhere
true.
in the world.
Yeah.
But how you deliver, who you're delivering for, all of those things really differentiate who you are. And if I walked in bare and I didn't know what I was talking about, there'd be a really hard chance for me to break waves there. So I did it
Interesting.
when I was moving there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that global marketing angle a little bit later.
Cool.
But what are some of the projects or campaigns, or like when you look back at your career, right? Like, what are some of the moments you're proud of? Like, what are some of the accomplishments that you're like, yo, I did that, you know? Like,
I think the thing I'm most proud of is my reputation. That is.
you have an amazing reputation.
Yeah.
You do.
And I think for me, that was because it stands for who I genuinely, authentically am. That is Elnaz. And for me, building that is sweat, blood, tears, respect, and admiration for everyone at all times. That's the hard shit.
Right.
The projects in itself, I've done some epic projects. I've been a part of epic teams, but my reputation is what I'm most proud of because that's what I'm going to leave behind. That's my legacy.
Yeah. And then just going back on what you said before, would you say your reputation is, I mean, for lack of a better word, the expander, or like the person that brings additional ideas to these scenarios?
Not anymore.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I felt like that was the reputation. In the beginning, I felt it was, look, she's going to over-deliver.
Right. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
she's
Okay.
going to kill it. Bring her on. We're good. In the beginning, that was the case. And I think you're right in saying, like, maybe that was the stepping stones. But now it's, she's a decent human being with integrity. This will get done the way it needs to. And we're all going to walk away feeling good.
Okay.
It's one of those, it's going to get done.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it.
Right. Yeah.
How is it going to get done? Are we going to walk away being like, what a headache. I can't believe that we've worked with this person? Or can I refer you to everyone who needs marketing or anything because you were that great with our organization? That's now my differentiator. I often say to people, I'll have coffee at a shop and there'll be 6 other marketers in that room. We won't know that we're all marketers, or there'll be 6 other marketers in that room. That's how saturated our industry is. How do people choose you? How do they come to you? Why would they select you? Is really comes down to that one caveat, your reputation. Who knows you? How do they know you? How proud were they of the work that you provided for them? How did you make them feel as an individual or a business owner or an organizational leader? So now that's my differentiator. I've been in the game too long to be that over-deliverer, like 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, your assets are in a folder. I used to be.
Right.
I used to be. Now it's 11 o'clock. Hey, you have 2 daughters. Shouldn't you be with your kids today? Let me take this on for you.
Okay.
I'll let you know when it's done, and we'll communicate if needed. Take care.
Nice. I like that. That's dope. So then I guess you're what, like creating the atmosphere for people to do their best work?
In part, for my team,
environment, I
for
guess?
my team, 100. That's what it is.
Yeah.
For partners and associates and clients, it's creating a safe space for all of us to do our best work collectively, because they're not all going to be creatives, right? They will be business people, there will be CFOs, they'll be just CEOs, they'll be whatever they are. But the space is so safe that it's not a consistent explanation of what marketing is.
Right.
Which in my early years,
Okay.
that's literally what I was up against.
Interesting, yeah.
why do we need, I'm not there anymore, thank God.
Right.
Now it's, here's a safe space. We work together very well, or respectfully enough that you can come in and say, from my lens, this makes no sense. Walk me through it. So I think that's what I create more so for the associates client side versus internally, which you're correct in saying.
Right,
It's
right.
that safe space in the creative.
To do the work.
Yeah.
Okay, dope. Yeah, and then before we get into, the big convo pieces, I want to talk about some challenges, right? Because I mean, you've been in the game for a while. You've worked with teams. I mean, you travel,
Big teams, yeah.
different countries, different cities,
All the time, yeah.
So, what are some of those moments like that you felt like you didn't want to do this, or you had a challenge, and like how
Yeah.
did you kind of get through some of those moments?
You touched on something, and it's the global flactor. Can we make flactor a word? That's pretty good, No, it's the global factor. Cultural differences is a real thing.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, when I taken on a global team, which is now, I was like, cultural differences. Honestly, not that I would share that with anyone out loud, but in my head, I'm like, cultural differences. Marketing is marketing is marketing. A campaign is a campaign is a campaign. Who cares, right? A campaign is a campaign is a campaign. Facts. Everyone can get a brief and understand what it means. How they achieve the brief is where the cultural breakdowns happen. The behind the scenes is where the breakdown happens. And, we were filming a commercial in Eastern Europe. I won't even name drop countries or anything like that. We're just going to keep it cool. But I wanted to be a part of, and again, for just learning purposes, the casting, script reading, everything. End of the day, my client. So I look at it as my commercial,
Right.
as much it is my clients. So I wanted to be a part of all of it so that moving forward, when we worked with this casting or scouting agency, we were comfortable. Everyone was good. It went so poorly that I remember at the end of day one, I was sitting under a pool table with a bottle of whiskey, just like, what am I doing?
Wow, really? Yeah.
What am I doing? Is this really it? This is what I've become? And not because the team was terrible, but they were terrible. And there was no connection. And what I later found out and how we were able to course correct, there was no connection between the casting company,
Right.
our agency, and the client.
So everybody was like working on their own
You're
separate.
that, and there's no connection. You don't care. It's a paycheck. Let me just get paid to do what I need to do, deliver what I need to deliver, and move on. Whereas when you're invested, it's sure, here's my money, but my name's on that. That's the reputation piece, right? So we did a lot of, as corny as it is, team building with grown-ups. And not junior staff. People who've been doing this longer than I've been alive. That was one of the most challenging experiences of my career. To tell people who are 3 times my age that we're going to spend the day learning how to communicate and trust each other, because this commercial needs to come out exponentially better than what the client expected. Because we're now 2 days late. And that for me was.
So would you say that
I'm getting
is
hot
like,
just remembering it.
Actually, that's actually a really interesting point, right? To manage somebody that's like more senior than you, more experienced than you, and like a whole team.
Yeah. I've had a lot of that.
So would you say that was like your, I guess, coming of age moment when it came to like management and working with teams and building teams?
No, because I have had teams where I've had all the ages.
Okay.
And it's respect's given when it's due. I've never been the earn my respect type of person. I respect everybody. Till I don't have a reason to, we're on good terms. So I've never had that problem. My coming of age with teams and building teams has actually been on the junior side. When they are fresh out of designer school, brand new graphic designer, motions designer, copywriters, and they're just fresh. Like, and it reminds me of when I was fresh and walking in with 13 campaign ideas, you know?
Yeah.
So,
you want to change this, you're going to change that. Oh,
They're
what
like,
about this?
you didn't
What
think of
about that?
this, you know, and you're just sitting there like, and you become so small. And so it's actually the younger teams that taught me more, because the older they get, for the most part, the more professional they were.
Right.
But when you're fresh, you're still speaking to me like I'm your high school teacher, and I'm just looking at them like,
Right.
I know that did not just happen, but you approach with white gloves. That was a lot harder. That for me, actually, it was my time at WE when we were reconstructing the entire agency team. That was my coming a moment for building teams, because everyone was so novice and had so much real life shit going on at home too, because they're in their early 20s drama where there's like, you just moved into a flat, you got your new roommate, or you just learning how to take transit in Toronto because you're from Barrie or whatever the case. Like, there's so much new things, and all of a sudden I felt like a college mentor.
Right.
You know, I was like teacher, counselor.
So much life stuff you have to like teach them and stuff.
And understand and balance and care. And early 20s, they're going through the biggest heartbreaks of their lives, regardless of if it's like a relationship or whatever at home. That for me was my coming of. I love young talent, but it taught me boundaries like no other.
Like, in terms of what?
Well, at that time, my phone was ringing at like 3 in the morning. Like, I don't think I can come tomorrow. I'm having a really hard day. Or like, you know, at 9 o'clock at night, still in the office. I'm like, you need to go. The work's not getting any better. Let's understand that. The work stopped getting there was no progress 5 hours ago.
Right.
I'm not impressed. Go home. You know? So it's the younger.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So let's talk about, the agency client relationship. So you mentioned a few things.
Yeah.
So, to break it down, you usually have like a brand, right? A client, and then they have like a project, or they have something they want to do, and then they bring on an agency, right?
Correct.
So you have experience in both sides.
Yeah.
So when an agency brings on a client, how do they, like, what's the best way to do that? Like, what approach should they take when they're considering, okay, we have this new potential client, are they the right fit for our agency? Can we help them? Are they the right client?
I think you just said it so well. It's really dependent on, does it match what your agency stands for?
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. For us specifically, I do like to push the boundaries. That's what I want to do. So I want to have fun content out there that's a little risque. That's a little bit like, oh, okay. Didn't think that was going to come on my television, but still tasteful, that you enjoy it. So when we do our briefs on, hey, what are we going to do with this client? The number one thing I always look at is their R&D. And the reason is, are you going to be a long-term client, or is this a one-off campaign? And I'm not talking about the financials behind that. It's more so how much relationship building is going to be required to maintain this account. Because then it's going to stem into, what are the people who work there like? Right? If I'm going to work with you on something, it goes to my earlier point where we're talking about creating a safe space for everyone to speak behind their lens and explain what their perspective is. If you're a terrible human being and you are going to suck the blood out of my team consistently, I'm going to have to pass, regardless of how much money you're throwing at me. The value of maintaining a team is way more important than onboarding at a client or a partner, whatever you want to call them, for the sake of getting a campaign out. So if it's long term, I can then approach and say, okay, how do we navigate a conversation where we can create a team with both sides where people gel really well?
Right.
Short term, I won't even look at it. It's just like, no. So
Yeah.
R&D for me, 100% is the beginning. What's this team, like, what is this organization's longevity? What's their product and or project's longevity? How can we fit into the later parts of this? Will we fit into the later parts of this? Is it worth the risk, the work, all of that? So one, R&D. I think number two is who are they off paper?
Off paper.
Off
Okay.
paper. Because on paper, you're going to have an organization that is pro everything. Yeah?
Yeah.
And they're contributing to all of the greatest charities, you know?
Yeah.
So you just
yeah,
clap.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. We do know where I've worked. My CV's not been shared,
Yeah,
right? But internally, it's rotten
Toxic.
for whatever reason. We don't even need to break that down.
Right.
Whatever reason, it's a broken business. I do not want our agency to be associated with that. Just don't. 2 years down the road, all of a sudden comes out, this happened, that happened. Then every time other clients, potential clients come to sit with you, they're like, oh, you helped them and you didn't know what was going on? And that reputation, not as an individual, but as an agency that we've built, is diminished. And so I won't take on clients like that either. Really, who's inside? Knock on the door, ask the questions, get in there, do what you need to do to find out who you'll be working with. It will bite you in the ass later down the road.
Yeah, for real.
Really.
Yeah.
And I think lastly, it's the work, the product, the if it's a specific project, is it good? You know, like, is it any good? Like, am I doing something that's gonna really not work? And then it's like, yeah, that's that agency, you know, they do everything because they took on this client, right? Or does your product work? Does your team know that your product works? I've been in rooms where we've politely declined because no one in that table that was from the from the brand side could get along or even knew what they wanted from their product.
Right.
And it's like walking into a dysfunctional family. I've got my own. Good.
Yeah.
You know,
for real.
like we're okay. So those are the three things: the R&D,
R&D.
who's in the house, who are we dealing with?
Off paper.
Off
Yeah,
paper.
yeah.
On paper, everyone's an
real
angel.
deal.
Off paper. So knock on the door, ask the questions. Get out of the boardroom. Go for food. Meals tell everything.
So is this during the
Just
sales
just
kind
getting
of
to know each other's face.
briefing
Yep,
process?
Yep.
Like,
Instead of us sitting in a boardroom and me presenting things to you consistently or asking questions, let's go eat. Let's go eat. And while we're eating, I'm going to see the other things you talk about. I'm going to see the other ways, your different mannerisms and your different atmosphere kind of vibes. I'm going to start picking up things. And then you do that 2 to 3 times, and you're like, okay, I know who we're getting in bed with. And you ask other people in the network, you do the things. So again, just one was
R&D.
2 was knock on the door, get in there,
Off paper.
and
3,
then
the product or
that's
the
it.
campaign.
Is it any
the
good?
project itself.
The project itself, is it any good?
Dope. Yeah, so talk about more, I guess, like, so now you've decided to work together.
Yep.
Okay, so they passed the R&D, was like, all right, okay, they did their homework,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, these people are kind of cool, you know what I'm saying? They're we can work
Good
with
people,
them, and
yeah.
they have a decent, product or a campaign. We can get behind this. So now, what does that positive working relationship look like ongoing? Like, what are some of the factors to keep that momentum and make
Yeah.
sure both sides are happy throughout the relationship?
For me, always the most underrated role in agency, in-house, whatever it is, within marketing, within advertising, the creative team, whatever, is the project managers. They are so undervalued, but project managers are that golden key. They are the key. I think I've worked alongside some phenomenal project managers that I looked at every day. I was like, just killing life. Like, you're great. And then some that you're like, oh my gosh, what are we doing with you? Like, are you sure this is your career path? You know? But project management. And what that means is clients want to know what their dollar is doing. That's what they want to know. The pretty pictures, the draft 1, draft 2 is all subjective. It is what it is. You know what I mean? What is my money being spent on is how I position it to my team to be able to speak to their clients. They don't go and regurgitate that and say, your dollars are going to, right?
But you want to know what your dollars are doing?
This, you know? Well, today at 2 o'clock, I went for a coffee. But quite similarly, they build out a timeline, a scope of work, a Gantt chart, however their client needs to look at that information that says X amount of dollars that you're putting towards this campaign is broken down like this.
Okay.
The core of it is here, which is where we'll be spending most of our time. During this time, we're going to need X, Y, Z from you, whether that's a person that's available to answer our questions whenever necessary, or a direct line to the final approval, whatever we need for that specific project. So the project manager really takes that on and builds out a story that says, this is what your project's going to look like for the next however long. The core of it's here, little baby stuff here. We don't really need you. We'll call you if anything happens. So you won't be hearing from us for the next 2 weeks. That transparency, we've not even showed them creative yet. We've not even won them over. There's been zero ROI. However, that transparency for them is everything. Because all of a sudden, they're in control. They see what's going on. Anyone within their organization says, and what's going on with that marketing campaign at any given time, they whip it out and they say it. They look like a hero. We look like a hero. Everyone walks away happy. So rather than spending time emailing back and forth consistently, everyone has access to a calendar. They know when they'll be called on. They know what project management.
Okay, so I have a question. Because in the agency context, you usually have like a account lead.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the person that gets the brief, kind of briefs the team, and responsible for making sure that work is done. So is this project manager and account manager the same person?
Can be, depending on how
you think
large.
it should be?
Depending on how large your agency is,
Okay.
right? If you're grossing money and you're making it rain, no, that should not be the person who does it.
So you should have two separate
Correct.
people, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, your account manager should bring in the account, should deliver the project, should be able to mitigate any actual unforeseen circumstances, should be working with the client on what are we doing next, that R&D move, you know? But the project manager should be someone who's literally day in, day out, moving the work, getting the approvals. The minute you have your account manager doing all of that, it slows everything down.
That's true.
And it takes from that person being able to actually grow that relationship, grow that business, grow what's required for them to even have the account in 6 months, because they're stuck doing so much of the admin push. So if it's large enough, should be 2. If you're not large enough, should be all hands on deck. I strongly believe that.
Okay.
You know, like, if you're not large enough, shouldn't be the account manager always doing the admin work. If you have a strong creative lead, let your creative lead be the one to get feedback on the creative.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
If you have a strong account manager, allow them to continue to build that business. At the end of the day, as an agency, yes, the work is very important, but it also can't run out.
Right.
You need work to continue. So you need someone to be able to contribute to that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And for me, when I was working in the space as an account manager,
Yeah.
we never had a project manager, and it took me a while to realize that some of the skills I was developing and that I needed were project management skills. Like that's yeah. So that's
And in hindsight, I'll ask you now, do you prefer to have an account manager and a project manager?
I absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%. I think that at least I would say that, like you mentioned, if it's large enough, have the project manager. If not, then there should be some project management
Across all roles.
training or,
Yeah.
like embedded into the,
I agree.
versus assuming that the skills and the tactics to
Correct.
make sure everything is on point, right? So yeah, great answer. Thank you for that. So let's talk about, okay, so now you have your project is running,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you have your campaigns, they're going live, and you have your ups and downs. Things are working, things are going well, maybe things are rocky. Like, so how do you decide if you continue with a client or if you part ways with a client? How do you end the relationship or decide,
Ooh. Well, you never leave midway,
okay, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you finish the work and to your best ability.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And then you do it's not you, it's me. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. It's terrible. It's terrible. But you do we've always been transparent. So let's talk about how this went down. I don't like calling it a postmortem. I had a leader once and, I was getting my team. She was the VP and I had a creative team and project managers and account managers. And she came to me once and she's like, I love that you do postmortems, but can I ask you something? I'm like, what's up? And she goes, doesn't that sound terrifying to you? I'm like, oh, you know what? It really does. It never clicked because in school, specifically when I'm getting my master's, it's so doctored. You just say the word without having any emotion to it, But in the real world, I completely forgot to even sound check myself to say, does that even vibe with you? Does that make sense? But she was 100% right. How vulgar. Postmortem.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. But we just changed it to debriefs, project debrief. Right? And we had a client debrief and then a team debrief. If the team debrief came to a point where everyone was defeated and we were not okay and no one in that room felt strong about their position, their work, or a continued partnership, the decision as a leader is easy. You know what you have to do. And so having the conversation with the client really is in that moment. Project is done. It's fresh. It's there. We're all cognizant of what's gone down in the last however long we've had together. So when we bring something up, it won't be like, it's old news. Come on, let's move on, right?
Yeah.
And it's just factual. There are no emotions or maybe emotions isn't the right word because you're gonna have
naturally
emotion.
You're gonna have, like,
Correct.
some feelings
But there are
around it.
I'm gonna
Like
use
what? Like emotional ties? Like
No, when you're presenting and you're telling them and you're saying to them like, "Hey, these are the reasons." You're not going to flip flop. It's gonna just be the straight
you're just focusing on the facts.
right?
Yeah,
But the minute you have emotion, sometimes it kind of you ramble on or you don't say enough because you're thinking about, I don't want to hurt so and so's feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Remove all of that, and you just say the truth of the matter is. We delivered X, Y, Z. This was the response. It doesn't correlate with anything that we stand for. Our values have been completely diminished working on this project with your organization. And for that reason, we're out. Shark Tank.
Yeah.
But that's it. You just give them facts. And honestly, that also helps your reputation. Because even though you said goodbye, you were so honest about it that no one walks out of that room curious. Well, what happened? Oh, they just messed us off. And they never replied to our email about this project, which is what happens
for real.
everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. I've been at a lot of agencies where I'm like, well, are you going to tell this client that we don't want to work with them? No, we don't need to. We just won't respond anymore. What? In the coward's name is that?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's bad.
Imagine dating those people.
So what other mistakes do you think so I want to switch to like retaining talent.
Ooh.
Right? So in the agency space, it has a notoriously known for like high turnover.
Correct.
Jumping from agency to agency.
Yeah.
So what are some of the mistakes that agencies make when it comes to finding good people and keeping good people?
Tricky. That's a good one. It's a good one. Finding good people. I mean, a good recruiter who knows the industry. I worked with recruiters who've been in the creative space for years. So when I give them a job description, they not only understand it, they have a network of individuals who can fulfill the role. Right. Number one. Number two is, I don't know, it's just me, or how people are going to feel about this. Don't hire their friends. Don't hire their friends. Don't hire their friends. I don't believe in staff referrals. Oh my God, I feel like everyone that's going to see this is going to be like, what should say? Why should like that? Because when you're pissed at us, you're going home telling them we suck. When you're happy with us, you're referring your friends. It's such a up and down kind of feeling that employees have, specifically like if I'm having a great day at work, I'm going to tell the world I love where I work. I love what I do for a living. I'm going to shit. You know, you're on it. You're talking about how much you hate it and how like you can't believe this is what you're doing with your life, yeah? So staff referrals to me are like asking for rotten fruit to come on in. It builds clicks. It builds laziness because I don't have to deliver. My friend will back me up and say that person, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. So I think some of the strongest teams that I've been able to build are truthfully a mix of junior, novice, senior, very senior, and 2 to 3 anchors that are up and coming. And the reason is because then you've got the seniors mentoring the novice and the anchors really pushing for great work from their seniors. So everyone really ends up playing their role super strongly. And then when they do leave, the up and coming take that role. And they've been there. And I think using strong recruiters who know the industry in and out has been incredibly helpful for us as well. And referrals from other agencies.
Okay.
That's always been my go-to, where I love the work that you're doing. We've maybe even never spoken to one another, but I would love to have a conversation with you about some of your talent that you guys are ready to offboard.
Right. Okay.
Right? Because sometimes it's just not a fit.
Yeah.
But that person's killing it. That's it.
Something like that.
But you're killing it. And that person should have a job. So I want to know who you're offboarding. Can I have them? Or on the other end of that, it's who were you not able to bring on because they were too expensive or too inexperienced in this one specific thing? Let's talk. I have some resumes, CVs I can share with you if you'd like to share some of that with me. That's how I like to build my teams. The LinkedIn way, I'm hiring, no thank you.
Not at all?
No thank you.
So you'd use those tools, collect resumes, anything like that?
I tried. My
Just
final.
haven't seen success?
No. And my final was last year. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Pretty crazy.
It's crazy. And then where I'm finding is the recruiters do work when they know, but the most success has always come from other agency leaders. And it doesn't even have to be C-suite or director level. It can literally be the head of or a manager who's like, hey, I overlooked this CV. I love what this agency does. I love what they stand for. Who you got, guys? Who are we playing with? Right? Isn't that how sports players get scouted too?
Yeah.
So why would we do that any different?
Love that. Dope idea.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned junior talent.
Yeah.
And you know, the Tech Effect, we're all about building up junior talent.
Love that.
You know,
love that about you guys.
Developing the future generations in marketing and tech. That's what we do. You know that.
I do.
And you've actually been a part of sharing knowledge with our community and some of our mentees and some of our up and comers, which probably if you see where they're at now, they're probably killing it. But do you have a mentor?
I have 2 mentors.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like anyone who's been able to wow me with something they said, I'm like, you're a mentor. Because it doesn't happen often.
Right.
I'm not one to be persuaded by other people very often. And I don't need to be persuaded to think that you're intelligent or that you're a good person. But for me to follow your lead, you got to persuade me. 100% I need to be persuaded. I do. I have a retired rabbi.
Okay.
As one of my mentors.
Is it marketing related or just life
my first
mentor
role?
Type of thing? Yeah.
It was actually his business.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Nice.
the 5 years, I really learned a lot working there. Was given opportunities because he saw my dedication.
So still
and
to this
passion.
day.
Still to this day, at least once a week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
amazing.
It's been, my whole family knows him.
Must be.
Yeah,
must
because it's
be.
been such a long time.
That's great.
Helped me with my master's, helped me get a tutor for math because I could count past 10 and that's about it.
Not the hundreds.
Yeah. So that's definitely one of my mentors. And another is a female, the VP that I spoke to you about that, Loki was just like, hey, postmortem's kind of,
Right.
she is one of the strongest female leads that I have ever encountered in my life. And the best part about her is she approaches it with kindness. The amount of power that this woman has when she walks into a marketing room. She's now the global VP of design for Sun Life. So it's not she's killing it. But she will walk into a room and the power that follows her is earth-shattering. But you feel so seen. And that is one of the rarest things that I've seen from female leaders. So when I say integrity and my reputation is something she's very much instilled in me. We're all going to get the roles. We're all going to get the briefs. We're all going to make it happen. How people remember what you did when you were working with them is the most important. So she is also one of, I can name her, but I'm not sure she would like that. So
That's okay. I don't think you need to do that. And then, so do you mentor
I do.
as well?
I do all the time. All the time.
Yeah. So do you have like a mentee right now, or how do you do that?
I do.
Oh,
I
okay.
do. The one that I have right now is very brand new into marketing, but really into sales. And she's very much I want to do all of this. I want to kill it. But can you bring me in and teach me the marketing side of it? Because that's where the money is for her. That's where she wants to grow the business. So yeah, I do. I spend a lot of time with her.
Yeah, so talk about like, I guess the two-way street, you talked about some of the benefits that you got being mentored, but when you mentor people that are coming up, what do you get from that? Obviously they're getting a lot from you.
Yeah.
What do you get out of that?
The truth is I run 1,000,000 miles an hour and there are days where I'm like, maybe I should just push paper for the rest of my life. Just get in a mid job, low key, be quiet somewhere and disappear. they're really hard. Some days are really hard. And it's not just work-wise, just in general. There are some days you wake up and you're like, yeah. I have saved a few text messages that I've had from previous employees, teammates, that have said things like, working with you leading me, working one-on-one, teaching me what I need to do, has given me the role of my dreams. A couple months ago, I was not okay. Just one of those days where you're just not okay for whatever reason there may be. And I got a text message. Random, and like, it's so random. I haven't talked to this person in years, yeah? And even in letting this person go because they were on a contract and then COVID hit and all of the things, it was such a respectful, the minute there's a role, I would work with you in any capacity. Mm-hmm. So I got a random text message. Hey, yo, L, what up? I'm like, hi. It's so-and-so. I just wanted to tell you I got my dream job with EA Sports. And I was like, are you joking? Because even when this person worked for me, that was their dream. They always share that with me. Like, I can get my foot into EA Sports. And he's like, you taught me XYZ. I put it on my CV, and that is exactly what they needed. Yeah, and when I went into that interview, I remembered everything you said about getting your head in the game. Don't look at anyone but the person who's interviewing you so you don't miss what they're saying. You get what they're saying. Anyways, long and short, the best leader I've ever had. I am where I am because of you. Oof, I'll tell you, I cried and cried. Because you're already at that most vulnerable space. You see something like that, and then you're like, okay, there's value. So that's what I get from it. And truthfully, I get that challenge of, these are the up-and-coming marketers.
Right.
These are who I have to watch my eyes out for, right? They're going to come up for our jobs, right? So for me, learning from them is something really great too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Keep you on your toes.
Always, yeah.
So when you talked about like a recruitment, right? Like getting a recruiter, finding junior talent. So talk about diversity and like when it comes to building a team and attracting new talent, especially in a global market, right? You mentioned the cultures and stuff too. Yeah, so,
diversity.
How do like agencies ensure that like they have diverse teams, but also how is that reflected in the work?
I think different backgrounds, regardless of ethnicity, socioeconomic, whatever it is, when you bring a problem to the table, the solution is so different when there is a group dynamic that's different to a group dynamic that's similar. Right. It's not lost among people. I think where we are now in our industry specifically, if you're not seeing diversity, it's an archaic way of being. Don't work with that agency because that probably is reflected in everything they do, not just the creative, not just their HR. Their protocols, their values, their morals, what they get involved in, don't deal with it. I think there's always room to improve. And you always have the teams that are still not as diverse as they should be, but it's getting better. For me personally, it's making sure that there is equal male to female, which is super important to me. Right. As a female leader, I see a lot of male-led teams, and it doesn't do what teams that are equally sorted, women to men, does. They just don't deliver the same.
Do you have experiences being the only woman in the room?
Yeah, terrible experiences. Terrible experiences. Where you're literally told, like, well, you know, we're not going to allow you to run this campaign or fill in this person's role because you're a female. To my face. To my face. You don't know the effects that kind of stuff has on people. And it's not this is a learning moment. It's now the onus is on me for the remainder of my career to not let that get to me. Thanks. Right? And that's a heavy cross to carry in every single conversation. At some point, it becomes so far distant memory that you do just get over it and you move on. But it's taken a long time. And there are still tables that I sit at where they articulate what I'm saying. What's that word people call it? Mansplaining? It's a real thing. It's the realest thing. Still happens. And
so
I'm
what,
just
you say something and then they have to say it in their way.
Well, what happens is like I'll explain something. And I know to God I'm articulate and funny as shit. So when you combine it, like that was a really good thing that I just said to you. Like that was gold, yeah? You just got gold. Then I'll hear a male colleague say to me, oh, what you mean is, blah, 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 blah. That's what she's saying. Who asked you?
Right, yeah.
Who asked you? And just recently, there was an incident like that, and I was frustrated, and I love this colleague. We get on so well, and I literally had that relationship where I turned to him, I'm like, never do that again. Never do that again. I didn't put up a white flag. There is no SOS. I'm capable of speaking to what I need to speak to in my own way. Never do that again. So it's mansplaining. It's talking over you. That's still a thing too, where I'm like, and I have a young face. So I look younger than I actually am, which oftentimes also doesn't work to my favor. So you're walking into a room as a female. You look really young, hon. So you don't even look like you're old enough to sit with this lot until it gets to a position where I'm like, oh yeah, I was alive for that too. And they're like, what? You were? And it changes the dynamic. And you then realize, oh, now they're speaking to me with some respect. Still not as much as they would if I had pants on and I look like them, but enough that I can carry on this conversation.
So what would you say to, I mean, you obviously have that strength and resilience that you built over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you address it? How do you deal with it that, you know, junior in the career, kind of surrounded, kind of, you know, what would you say if you pulled them to the side?
If you pulled the people who are doing it to you?
No, you know, if there was like a young woman starting in her career, she was in some of these rooms and she was going through some of this stuff, like.
Know your shit. Do not walk into any room unprepared. We don't have that luxury. We just don't. Everything you say will be scrutinized. So if you are not in there and you are not 100% on your game, you're not going to walk out feeling good. If you know your stuff and you are confident in that and you know when push comes to shove, you've researched this, you understand how it works, you've tested it, A/B tested, you've done everything you need to do, and it's still not reaching the audience the way you want it to, you need to walk away from that knowing I did what I had to do. And now it's a perception thing, not a value thing. Right. I brought the value. Your perception and what that is, not on me. It's not on me. And then honestly, it's the having an accountability part. You're not always going to go to your boss and be like, I had a really hard day. They weren't listening to me. I never did. But I had a colleague that I trusted very much. And we walked from different rooms, different meeting rooms, different moments. And I was like, dude, like, I said X, Y, and Z. Does that resonate with you? And sometimes they'd be like, I kind of.
Right.
I'm on the fence on this one. Or other times it's like, yeah, I get it. And that accountability partner over time helps you to put into check. And then you really start to say, okay, wait a second. I did deliver value. It is a perception thing, not on me. It's a lot to have to do.
Right, yeah.
Just because you're having a conversation and it's unfair, but it's the most proactive way to continue and move forward.
Good answer. It's amazing. Okay, we're going to switch to a little bit of tech stuff.
Okay.
A little bit of future stuff.
Let's do it.
Because the world is changing based on tech and marketing impacted as well. But let's talk about AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning. How can brands and agencies take advantage of these technologies that are coming out?
I think what I've noticed with my team, some of the youngers, the more junior ones, they're very much clickbait people. They'll see a headline and they're like, oh my God, my job. What is it going to mean for my job? What am I going to do? And you're just kind of like, okay. So like any problem, education key.
Yeah.
Learn as much as you can. Teach your teams as much as you can. Bring experts in. Make them so comfortable and knowledgeable about what these specific tools and or changes mean to them, to the industry, to the world as a general, that they're making life decisions that is dependent on education, that's dependent on knowledge, that's dependent on what they know is a fact versus being dependent on what they're reading on LinkedIn, what's been shared,
Yeah.
So I think what I'm trying to say is the more you know, the more equipped you are to make career decisions. You don't want to be frightening people by sharing things like, we're going to start using this tool, move on. Come on. Not right now. Maybe in 2 to 3 years, sure. Right now, there's an education curve that we all need to go through, that we all need to be a part of. Once that's been put into place and people are really clear on what these tools do and how they can benefit the organization and even the individual that feels they're going to get their job replaced,
Right. Yeah.
there is a stronger... Is allyship a word?
It is.
There is a stronger allyship for tech within creative versus all of the junk that's going around right now and people being so scared. Similarly to any scare tactic. If you scare people, they're not going to be open to it. But if you educate them and give them the tools that they need, a lot of the organizations, they do those like team buildings and all of that. A great idea. Yeah. Great idea. Bring in some of the leaders in the space. Bring in some of the techs. Let them speak to what they're building, what they're doing. Take them to different conferences. Well, let them see it in real life. What does this actually mean? And I think that will help eliminate a lot of the uncertainty.
That's dope. Let's talk about experiential, right? Experiential marketing, because I know you have some experience there, and
I do a lot, yeah.
There was a time where we couldn't even do experiences, and now we're back outside, right? So
belonging to the streets like we do.
Belong to the streets. Okay, so how can agencies adapt, right? With the in-person event, the virtual, the hybrid experiences. What are some of your ideas of like what they should be doing, or what do you think is like
get out there
a good way to like build buzz and use experiential marketing to your advantage?
Yeah, get out there. 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 I think the hybrid was really cute when we were all inside our houses. Drop it. It's done now.
Okay.
I don't think that hybrid works in the sense that if there's a live event going on, that atmosphere, you can't bring it on Zoom. This is literally like, I can't feel the vibe that people are feeling at the event through my computer. I just can't. Well, I was ill a couple weeks ago, and someone had said to me, this is the best yoga class I've ever been to in my life, and guess what? They do it online. Try it from home. Okay. Everyone in the class is literally looking like they're going through this enlightened moment. And I'm just like, huh? What? Turn it off. Like, I don't even like this guy's voice on the camera, you know? So the essence of an event is the atmosphere. And that will never get shared through Zoom. Anyone who tells you that is a liar. They are lying to your face. Because we have all sat through 2.5 years of Zooming, and not one person was probably like, I feel it, guys. I know, I'm here, I'm there, we got this. Like, no one. So please stop the hybrids. I think if you want to share an event that's happening online, don't. Share hashtags, let people see pictures, let them see videos, and they'll never miss your event again. Make the event so strong and so digitally accessible without sharing the whole thing. So that next time, they're never going to miss it.
Yeah, they got that FOMO.
That FOMO.
Wow.
I'm not going to get FOMO if you put it online. It's just like, oh, there's a digital version. Corny. That is not it. No more hybrid, guys. Stop it, please.
Yeah, you hear that?
Please, no more hybrid.
Hybrid's done. Great answer. I mean, I never heard that one. You know, I heard a lot of businesses and brands trying to adapt towards the hybrid model, but I guess the challenge, like you mentioned, it just won't be the same. Like
it just is not the same. And if you missed it, but there are key elements that are required for your specific role, department, whatever, send a pamphlet, hun. We send emails for everything. Might as well send this one an email too, right? Or have, a colleague go on your behalf and tell you the things you need to know, but stop putting things online.
That's amazing.
Events online suck.
Okay, so last question. Well, last question of this section, but we have a little speed round after.
Okay.
What are some of the emerging trends that you see in the future of marketing? So, like, let's talk about where do you see this going, and it's almost the end of 2023 right now. So there's a lot of lists of like, this is what's coming up in 2024.
Yeah, I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been like, oh, cool.
But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of mind blown with your hybrid answer there. I just love that concept, the way you said it. So what do you see? Where do you see the future of marketing going? Like,
I think if you are, one of the things I often hear from potential clients is everything about this campaign is breathtaking. I just can't afford it. Right?
Okay.
So as marketers, what we're coming up against is businesses and organizations who understand the value of marketing. So we're not taking away from that. They get it. They understand the value of marketing. They just can't fathom spending the money because they believe if they put it into the operation of the business, that's how they're going to succeed. I'm not here to tell any CEO or Joe Blow how to do their job. That's what you think is going to work for you? Cool. So where I see us going is really changing that relationship with our clients to a space where it's like a subscription model almost.
Okay.
Right? So you would go into an agency and you would say, okay, well, I have subscription 1, 2, or 3 available. One starts at X amount of dollars, 2 smells, whatever. And as a business, all I can afford is number 3.
Right.
So I see a lot of agencies moving away from, and I see it happening very soon because I've already been in a couple conversations with some that have been like, how would you price this? Have you ever worked on this kind of project? Where we're moving away from a la carte and we're putting together an actual, here is a bundle this is what it cost. Go. So that's one. So the business part, that's how I see it. Okay. So I see a lot more agencies bundling their products and giving it that way versus catering specific. Because I think a lot of us are always like, well, I'm different because we cater to your needs.
Right.
Well, they don't have money for that anymore. It's a different economy. So let's bundle what we can do, price it out to an average that makes sense for most of the marketing agencies around me. And there you go. So that's that. Trend-wise, I feel we are really moving towards number one, we all know that everyone's going to be on the TikTok for the next little while.
Short form video or TikTok specifically?
Well, just TikTok specifically.
TikTok,
TikTok specifically. Because I'm watching some of the numbers on YouTube lately, and they're not as strong as the TikTok numbers still. So short form videos is a thing, yes, for sure. It'll continue, but it will live more so on TikTok than anything else. But I actually believe where we're going is, you're going to hate me for events. Event marketing, I think, is the actual key to a lot of brands and campaigns now.
I agree.
Yeah. I think that is the best way for businesses to be able to sell their product the way that they want to, regardless if it's B2B or B2C. And what it does is it puts people in a position where they feel empowered to participate, which gets them more involved with your brand, which ends up being a real win-win for everybody because it hits on all of the key factors needed for us to convert consumers to loyal, long-term consumers, right? So they're part of something, they feel it, they're there, it's tangible, it's growing on them, they're having conversations with other people in real time about what's going on, that's lasting. There are portions of it that'll carry on to social. Really personal, though, depending on what that person uses versus what I'm trying to feed you.
Which channel it goes to, right?
Correct.
Right. What are, as somebody that's coming up into the marketing space, what are some of the skills they should be learning then to be in these pathways, events?
Yeah, I think B2B skill sets, being able to approach different businesses, because whether it's for partnerships or sponsorships,
That's key.
you just got to know. Yeah, you got to know, right? So I think that's number one, because events need sponsors, events need partnerships, events need people who actually will put money where their mouth is. And if you don't have the skill set to accumulate that, you're done.
Right.
So that's one. I think two is organizational skills. Like if you are an organized person, it's easy breezy stuff. You just put everything where it belongs in terms of pocket, invitations, who's coming, who's not going, where organization, almost project management, yeah? And I think lastly, it is your speaking skills.
Okay.
Because when you're in that room, that is your golden opportunity. Regardless of what brand you're representing you and your agency. That is new money, new clients. It is everything to you. So if you can articulate who you are, what you do, where you're from, win the hearts of the audience, game over. Game over.
Mic drop.
That's it. That's it.
That's big.
Yeah,
That's
and then
big.
and then you walk away with a lot of people that are going to call you when they have marketing because they really liked who you were.
Win the hearts of the audience.
Win the heart of the audience. Yeah.
Amazing. Elnaz Gerami. So many keys on technology, marketing, career development, mentorship. Thank you so much for coming through.
Oh my gosh, I've been having so much fun.
so
I'm like,
much-
don't let it end.
definitely. I already booked you for a part 2 at some point, so
Can't wait.
but
And
we-
you're coming to London to help us, so we'll tell your team and the Tech Effect. We'll let everyone know soon.
Maybe we could do a episode there.
Oh,
That would be
that's
dope.
the move.
That would be
That's
dope.
so we can
That'd be
actually
dope.
speak to why we think event marketing is going to be the new trend because it's an event we're doing together, right?
It is amazing. So I have a few questions, a speed round,
Let's
just
go.
to get to know you really, really quick.
All right.
Food wise, what's your favorite food? Like, yeah, what's
Food.
your
I
favorite
eat
thing?
so
Yeah.
much. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love garlic bread. I'll have garlic bread with
Okay.
anything.
Yeah,
with
for real.
anything. Sometimes I just eat garlic bread.
Store bought or homemade?
Store bought.
Okay. Because you know they got that garlic spread too, and then you toast it up and stuff.
For sure. But homemade is just like, whatever, you
Yeah,
know.
it's
And
not
you
the
know,
same,
I
yeah.
sometimes on Instagram I'll watch those food people and they make those crazy garlic
Yeah,
breads with the
yeah.
roasted. Who has time?
Oh man.
But I love a garlic bread and a fried chicken.
Nice. Okay, and then so yeah, you've traveled, you've lived in different places. So what's your favorite spot? What's your favorite spot?
For
Like,
living or for what?
let's just say, where's the favorite place you've ever been? Where's a place that you've been that you've loved it, and you're like, I want to go back, or I would move there. Like,
London, England.
okay, so
London,
you already made
England.
that
Yeah,
happen.
I did
You
it.
already made that
yeah,
happen.
yeah. You were part of that journey, actually.
for sure. I
So
remember that.
I absolutely made that happen.
Amazing.
I love London. It's a great
It's
place.
blessed. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
it
wait to
is.
go back.
I know.
Okay, cool. So then, yeah. So favorite app. This could be marketing related or for work. Any like, what do you use the most?
The Calm app. Calm is one
Oh,
of the best apps I have ever used.
You use it every day?
I
Or not
use
every
it
day, but, like,
every day,
regularly?
twice
Yeah.
a day.
Wow,
Calm
really, eh?
is. Listen, falling asleep to Matthew McConaughey's voice.
Is he on there? So there's like different
The
celebrities on there. And
yeah,
stuff?
they tell you stories. Sometimes Harry
Really?
Styles in my ear before I fall asleep. You know,
So it's not a meditation app.
it is.
Mhm.
But the stories are for adults to be able to help you calm and relax so that you can actually sleep. Some of us really just need that voice and that sound before we fall asleep. And there is meditation on it. There are so many instances where I've had team members who are literally at this one that's at EA Sports now.
Right.
He was really going through it, and I'd bring him into my office, close the door. He'd listen to the LeBron James set, and it'd get him back
Really?
into his zone, and he was okay with it. Yeah, I use it for everything. I love that app.
That's amazing.
Shout
I
out
gotta
to the
check that
people
out.
at Calm.
Yeah, shout out to
Yeah,
Calm.
you
yo.
guys are
Hit us up.
killing it.
Book or podcast.
Podcast. This is so hilarious right now. I'm behind every self-help book, and not necessarily for the sake of the self-help. It's just to
Yeah.
see what different ideologies are there for how our minds work.
Mm-hmm.
The more I can understand how people's mind work, the better marketer I am, right? So
Right.
that's that.
Yeah.
Podcasts. I like funny podcasts. I'm a funny podcast kind of girl. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan.
Yeah.
Love Joe Rogan. And Shits and Gigs from the UK. I was actually telling you about it earlier today, so I'll send you the link. They're hilarious.
Yeah, I gotta check that.
Yeah, they're really good.
Okay, cool. And then last one, word of advice.
To marketers,
Yeah, to up and coming marketers. I think again, think about yourself starting in your career and some of your, a motivational word to push forward through some of the challenges and stuff.
it is one of the top industries that you actually have to love what you're doing to be successful. If you don't love it, run. Go now. Because it's hard. It's hard. And if you don't love it, that hardness is going to break your soul. But if you do love it, that hardness is going to make you excellent. And if you do love it, your work is going to show. And that's going to be something that is everywhere. You're going to see it in magazines, you're going to see it on television, it's going to be everywhere. And that's your love being reflected back to you. And that's something you don't get in a lot of jobs, right? So you have to love it. Sit with yourself, have the mirror conversation, as the one says. I don't know if anyone listening knows this, but you're meant to have like a mirror conversation every so often. Put yourself in check, yeah?
Right.
Ask yourself, if I was a billionaire tomorrow morning, but I still had to deliver on the marketing campaign that I'm in the middle of now, would I do it? And keep asking yourself. And as long as the answer is like, yeah, it's no sweat, you're doing the right thing. But you've got to love this. You have to love it.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, y'all. Another episode of Career Currency. Elnaz Gerami came through from This Is It Marketing. Man, so much experience, 15 years deep. How to handle the boardrooms, how to deal with strategy, clients. She gave so many keys today. I took so many mental notes. Talked about mentorship, about leadership, and diversity. Thank you so much. It was amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the often rambles too, but I
No,
just
no,
got
it's cool.
so excited.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
was like,
cool.
let's
It's
just keep
cool.
going.
We
Let's just keep going.
talking. Yeah, I already know that you have so much knowledge and so much information that
Thanks,
needs to be transferred and shared, especially around the agency experience too. So much information there. So yeah, thank you again.
thank you.
I look
Thank
forward
you.
to continuing to build with you and working and go from there.
And London, baby.
All right,
Can't wait. That's going to be epic.
Yeah.
Thanks,
epic,
Kareem.
epic.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode of the Career Currency Podcast. I'm your host, Kareem Perez, and we'll see you next time.
You're tuned in to Career Currency with Kareem Perez, a podcast for people who are interested in unlocking their potential and increasing their professional value.